sensor down at the bottom, and then a light source will shine up and it will capture the reflected image back down at it. But when we remove that top blocking panel, the light can shine up through and pass through the negative and then get registered onto the sensor, and we get a scan of the film. So it'll always be removed because we're never going to use this as a document scanner. It's always going to be a negative scanner. And when you're scanning your film, you're going to use one of these film holders. So this is the 4x5 one, so this is the one we'll be using in this class, but we do have medium format and 35 millimeter. The way they work is they just have these doors that hinge open. There's an area guide that you put your film into, and you'll push the door closed, and there's tabs that have to kind of snap into place to hold everything. And then when you set it up in the scanner, you'll notice these little wings on the side here, and they have these little holes, posts, or whatever you want to call them, that come down off of them. Those align into these holes that are on the edge of the scanner here. So we'll just put that down, it'll drop in place and kind of lock in, and then we can close the scanner on top of it. Now I believe, I get this mixed up every time, but I'm pretty sure it's emulsion side up on this scanner. And I think that'll be different when we start scanning on the Hasselblad, but for here it's emulsion side up. And then we close this down, and then we launch the scanning software, which in this case we're using Epson Scan. So I'll just type in Epson on the search bar, and then actually, you know what I'll do right now? Oh wait, I have to grab it here. I'm gonna put it on the dock. So now we have the Epson Scan utility on the dock. So we'll just open that up. It's a picture of a scanner, and it'll launch. Hopefully.
Is it on?
Oh yeah, the scanner is not on. Well, it will. Oh yeah. Scanner does have to be on for this software. On the Hasselblad, it doesn't. You don't actually have to connect to the Hasselblad to launch the scanning software, but the Epson does want to be connected, so we'll launch. Now that it's on, we'll launch the scanning software and it'll work. Okay, cool. So,
That's what I learned from my IT guy.
on Epson Scan, you have a couple of modes. You have full auto, home, office, or professional. We're always going to be in professional mode. So if you open it up and it doesn't look like this, it might be in like home mode or something, and it'll look like that. That's not what we want. We want to be in professional mode. And professional mode gives us all these different options. So, we have to go through and set some of these settings before we do a preview scan. Mainly it's these settings we have here under original. So first thing we have is document type. So when we open that up, we can either tell it reflective, which that's not what we're doing. That would be like scanning a page. And then we have film with film holder or film with area guide. So we want film with film holder because we're using the film holders. Area guide, I believe there's one that's for scanning 8x10, which is not a film holder. It's just kind of a flap, like a sheet that you put down. And then it has to do with where the scanner focuses, because with the film holder, the film's being held a bit off of the glass. So it needs to know to focus a little bit higher up. If you're using an area guide, the negative would be right on the glass, and then you would want it to focus there. Okay, so we're film with film holder, and then we got to tilt the film type. So you have three choices: positive film, color negative film, or black and white negative film. So in this case, we're doing black and white negative film, so we'll select that. And then the last thing we need to worry about before we do our preview scan is the image type. I can drop down. We don't want that. So that's our color space, basically. So we have 8-bit grayscale, 16-bit grayscale, 24-bit color, or 48-bit color. So if you're doing black and white, go with 16-bit grayscale. If you're doing color, go with the 48-bit color. So we're doing black and white, so we'll be at 16-bit grayscale. Now we can do the preview scan, which we would do, but just real quick, these other two settings here. One is resolution, so that's the DPI of the scan, and then the other is the document size. So right now the document size is set to like 6x10, which is not what we're scanning. We're scanning a 4x5 negative, but it'll recognize the document size when we do the preview scan, so we don't really have to worry about setting that right now. So I'm just gonna go ahead and hit the preview scan, and it'll start scanning. And the nice thing about this is that because we're using the film holder, and it's going to recognize the boundary basically of the image and give us a kind of a thumbnail. And if we had two negatives in there, it will give us these two broken out
Oh, okay.
scans instead of just a scan of the whole page. And it doesn't crop in beyond what the film holder is showing, but because the film holder has a kind of lip that the film rests on, it does kind of crop into the image just a little bit. You can't get actually a full bleed where you get the edges of the film. So that's one of the kind of negatives about the flatbed scanner.
And the other one you can do it, right?
Hmm?
With the other one you can do it, or no?